Many agency owners fail because of their lack of ability to close sales calls. The single biggest thing that got me from $10,000 a month to $30,000 a month was just maximizing the conversion of my sales calls. For example, when I was making $10,000 a month, I thought that leads was the problem. I thought I needed to just cram my calendar with more leads to make more sales. But the truth is, you don't need more leads necessarily. You need to maximize the conversion rate of your sales calls that you've currently got in your calendar. Here's what I mean by this. So when I was making $10,000 a month, I was booking around 3 to 4 calls every single day. So say worst case, 60 sales calls every single month. But I was only closing about 3 or 4 of these into clients. But fast forward to now, where we've optimized our system, we book around 30 sales calls a month, but on board 5 to 6 clients every single month. So our conversion rate has skyrocketed. I'm going to break down exactly how you can achieve the same results and sign more clients with less sales calls to increase the efficiency of your business. I'm going to give you a 5-point framework that is exactly what I used and I still use internally in my business to help me close prospects into clients. And I'm hoping you can do the same. The first part of the sales call is the intro and rapport building. This is one of the most important parts that honestly gets overlooked way too much because people just want to jump straight into talking about sales and straight into talking about their service as soon as they jump on the sales call. But the truth is, a lot of times leads will have their guard up when they jump on sales calls, and it's your job to bring this guard down, make them feel relaxed, and make them feel comfortable. This will especially be the case if your leads are coming through outbound strategies where you're doing cold outreach to them. They're going to be very cold on the call. The way you always want to start your sales call is with very positive energy to try and bring down the hostility of the prospect. I personally recommend doing a little bit of research 5 or 10 minutes before the call on the company's website, on the prospect's LinkedIn profile or their Facebook profile, and find something that they're interested in, and then bring this up in the initial stages of the call. Everyone loves to talk about themselves and their own opinions, so this will play to the ego of your prospects and help you a bit further down the line. Now, the intro and rapport building part of the call is very important, but do not make this more than 3 to 4 minutes long because you need to set the frame of the sales call. And if the prospect talks for too long at the beginning, then they'll feel like they'll be in charge of the call. But you need to ensure that throughout the call, you are in charge and you are setting the frame. Once you have some rapport built up with the prospect and you can tell they're a little bit more comfortable, the second stage you'll want to go into is discovery. This will be the length of the call and by far the most important part of the whole sales call. Discovery is all about finding pain that you can leverage later on in the call. You want to be digging into the prospect's desires, what they're currently doing, what isn't working, what is working, and really attack it from the frame of mind that you are a doctor and you're diagnosing what's going wrong with this person's sales funnel so you can prescribe a solution. Some examples of questions you can ask during the discovery phase of the call would be, what are you currently doing for your outbound marketing? You can also ask, what sort of success or what sort of results are you currently seeing from your strategy? You want to ask, in 3 to 6 months, what would be the dream that you want to get to in terms of clients or revenue? This is all about information gathering. So you want to figure out what the prospect wants to achieve, what they're doing currently, what they're not doing, and try and find points of leverage that you can use later in the call. The discovery part of the call should last around 15 to 20 minutes, and you should go into a lot of detail and ask a lot of questions to diagnose their problems. Once you've discovered what the issue likely is with the prospect, and it just might be they can't book enough sales calls, then we need to go into stage 3, which is building the gap. Building the gap is a really important part of the sale, as this is where we create leverage to actually pitch our solution. If we do this correctly, it will make the pitch and closing so much easier. By the end of the discovery part of the call, you should understand where your prospect is currently and where they want to get to. Now we basically need to highlight to the prospect this gap, and we need to widen it if possible. We need to start asking targeted questions such as, I understand you're here and you want to get to here. How do you currently plan on doing that by yourself? This will make the prospect admit that they can't really get there themselves, and this is the reason why they're on the call. You also want to ask questions such as, what does it mean for you and your business if you don't get to this goal? You want to start creating pain in the prospect's mind. This will help you going into the close. You'll know you're doing a good job at building the gap on the sales call when the prospect is starting to admit that they just can't get there themselves and they need your help. Once you've spent enough time building the gap and making the prospect actually realize they're going to need to try something new to hit their goal, then it's time to go into stage 4, which is pitching your solution. The pitch needs to only be a few minutes and you need to be very concise. The pitch should go something like this. Say, for example, we've got John on the sales call who's indicated he needs help with his lead generation. You can say, thank you, John. I appreciate you opening up and giving us so much information on this call, it's clear to me that there needs to be a change in strategy for your lead generation to hit your goal of $50,000 a month by the end of 2025. I truly believe that we can help you, as we've done the same thing for so many businesses like yourself. The way that we do this is through X, Y, Z, and then use your unique mechanism and the way that you do things, and then ask if that would be of interest. So if we could help you go from $20,000 a month to $50,000 a month with our intent-driven outbound systems, John, would that be of interest? It's very important that during stage 4 and 5 of the call, you need to be as silent as possible after you've spoken. So John might say, yes, that would be of interest, of course, but how much does it cost? And then this is where the real pitch comes in, because nothing really matters in the sales call until you've said the price. This is when the prospect's real objections will actually start coming to the surface. If you've done your pitch correctly, then the prospect will ask for the price pretty soon after. If they don't, then keep asking targeted questions to try and get them to come out with what is the price. As usually, you don't want to say the price until they've asked. But once the prospect does ask for the price, then I would just say it in one word and be silent. So say, for example, John says, okay, this sounds great, but what is the price? You could say, well, John, it's $3,000 for 30 days. And then you just need to be silent. The silence you can build after saying the price will actually determine how likely the prospect is to close. There's been multiple times where I've said the price on a sales call, been super nervous, and just had to mute my mic because I know that if I speak again, I've lost the deal. As soon as you've said the price and you've zipped your mouth and wait for the prospect to reply, then we go into stage 5, which is closing and objection handling. Until you say the price, everything's pretty easy. It's obstacles you need to overcome, not objections. As soon as you actually say the price on the sales call, now the objection handling starts. This is when the prospect will actually bring up the objections they're thinking of. For example, oh, yeah, it sounds good, but I need to talk to my partner, or I need some time to think about it. Now, this is your time to dig deep to figure out what is actually the truth. And I had a great closer on my team a few months ago who actually helped me understand this concept a little bit deeper. The way they saw objection handling isn't actually like to get them to say yes to everything, it's to seek the truth. So if someone's saying, oh, I need to speak to my partner, then you can ask, I understand that, John, but why is that you need to speak to your partner? If your partner told you, no, you can't do this, would that be a showstopper for you? And then, for example, the prospect might say, oh, no, I'd still go ahead. And then you could explain, okay, John, I understand that. So what is the issue we have here? You basically want to seek the truth to figure out what is actually behind the objection, because a lot of these objections are just going to be smoke screens. You want to determine the smoke screens from the real objections so you can handle them properly. The objection handling part could last as long as an hour, honestly, and there's been times where I've been on the call for 45 minutes closing a prospect, answering all their questions. But the longer you stay on with the prospect, the more likely it is you are to close them. Oftentimes, prospects just want comfort and they want to know that they'll be in safe hands when they're giving their money to you. And you can build this trust by just spending longer on the phone with them and answering all their questions. But if you use the framework of truth seeking during the objection handling phase, it'll make it much easier for you to close deals. Because there are some objections that come up that are truthful, and people may need to speak to decision makers depending on the size of the business, and you equally can't lose the deal because of this. If you're pushing too aggressively and too hard against something that actually is true, then you're going to lose the deal also. So it's all around finding what is the truth behind the answers of the prospect and respecting that. As soon as you've handled all those objections, it's really important that you collect payment on the call. So many times prospects will say yes, I'll say I'm keen to go, and then as soon as they jump off the call, they'll get something called buyer's remorse. Even though they haven't even bought it yet, they're thinking, oh goodness, I'm going to get tied into this, I'm going to spend all this money. Whereas if you actually just go through the payment on the call with them, it means you have a much higher likelihood of actually converting that client. If they're not willing to spend the money on the call, then why would they do it off the call when they're having all these thoughts roaming around their head? So follow those 5 steps in this sales call framework, use them and see how you get on in your agency to increase your close rate. If you're looking for specific one-to-one help of how to book more sales calls or close more leads for your lead generation agency, then book a call with me using the link in the description, and I'll see you on the next video.